Alright guys, Matt Day with CLA, back to discuss another drill with you. This one here, our half field slides, is probably our most fundamental defensive drill that you can do. Really focusing on crease slides today. We're going to start off with midfield. They're going to go with what's called our wing versus skinny, and then versus our ex-Dodgers drive and turn. So a couple setups here. We want to be recovering alley. Alley is when we take the ball carrier down the side to force a low angle shot. Again, you can run this for skinny, which is our term against a wing dodger to get him skinny down the pipe on both sides. Drive and turn would be against X. We would either drive to the corner or we would force an inside roll and slide crease. Here we have our crease versus midfielder, which we're going to cover first. Big thing here is coach placement. You can do one of two things. If you have a live ball, you can have this defenseman actually be a ball carrier and then roll back and literally throw the ball from the coach who then works it to the other side. Or you can mimic it where you say, all right, we're starting top left. We mimic a Dodger without the actual ball. We roll and we mime the throw and we mime the throw. Probably a good regression for those of you who maybe don't have the stick skills or you're dropping the ball every other rep and it's slowing down the drill. The last thing you want is we slide to one, there's a turnover, bad pass, and then we move it again, and then we're only getting 2 reps in such a small time interval. So if you can't catch and throw, or you can't catch and throw well enough yet defensively to mimic offensive players, just take the ball out and mimic it. We're working on fire, Rico, bump and away, our slide call to initiate, and then our recovery call to initiate our recovery, and then bump and away is directed by the two. Are you going to crease and I go out, or are you going all the way across? One area at a time. Again, that's really more of a point on do your half field slides against the midfield, against the wings, and against the ex-Dodgers all at different times. So you can focus on one area of the field at once. You can also add in a double crease if you were going to see a 1-4-1 or a 2-2-2, that kinds of things. Groups of 3 on ball, hot, and 2 from the top down adjacent. Top down being across, but not on the ball. He's an adjacent. He's going to cover the crease as the ball works its way down the alley. And again, you're looking for 30, maybe 45-second reps. You'll find that once we get started, you're going to slide in recovery about 5 or 6 times in that time interval. So you want to keep it short and get a higher quality, as opposed to having guys dragging their feet, not taking away the middle, not hedging to a slide, not firing with a purpose. Probably better to get 6 to 8 quality reps than it is to go for a minute and get 10 to 12, and the back half are just, the kids are completely exhausted. So a couple points of emphasis before we start. Rules of engagement. In this situation in the midfield, we are never going to allow Dodgers to sweep to the middle. We're not going to let them roll back to the middle. We're going to force them down the alley on both sides. 1s and 2s. In this situation, again, we're covering more of a top-down adjacent scheme where this ball carrier up top is working the ball down the alley. We're going to fire from D2, and then our 2 slide is going to come from the D3 away, leaving this guy open. Good reference point would be for you guys to teach this D3. There's no reason that you should be higher than the ball carrier. You should be at least even hip to hip. If he rolls back, you can work back out to try and jump and play ball if the ball works back to your side. But really, you should be even with the ball carrier, probably a little bit lower to cover up this cone on the middle. So scouting, another big point of emphasis, which is if I know that we're going to see a 3-1-2 offense from an opponent coming up, I'll put 3 lines up top, excuse me, and cover from the crease. If I know it's going to be 2-3-1, I'll do something like this, and then transition to wings and behind. If we're going to do a 1-4-1 as a scout, I'll put a double crease in, which would just add another layer, so you'd have a 1, a 2, and a 3. But this is a good way to start, just to kind of get the overall concept of the drill. High reps in short amount of time, like we covered, 30 to 45-second reps. Your guys should be tired at the end of this. If they're not, then you should be pushing them. Hey, fire with more of a purpose. You should be exhausted after 3 or 4 of them in a row. Very rarely do you have to slide that many times in a game, this is ideally harder, the sliding situations, than what you would encounter in the game, especially if you take the ball out. And then you have comms, verbal and nonverbal. Again, I'm a big guy on all the verbal communication, but a lot of times when guys get tired, that starts to go out the window. So you can either snap them back and say, I don't care how tired you are, for example. You should be saying, I'm in, I'm out, hot, hedge, fire, Rico, all those things. You can also use non-verbal cues. A lot of guys, if I'm the 2 slide covering the crease, and this guy's recovering to me here, I can point here and work my way back out. If you're one of those defenses, then feel free to work in your non-verbal communications with your hand placement. And then we talked about conditioning already. So ideally, what we would do is have 2 or 3 ball carriers on each side with a coach in the middle. If you're using the ball, the coach becomes your facilitator, and I'll show you what I mean. So if the ball was here, we're denying our sweep, we're forcing our alley first, okay? This D2 has got a hedge to the ball as our hot. This D3 needs to be in a position where he's even with the ball carrier as he works down, because he's got to get in eventually and be our top down adjacent as our 2. So all we're going to do is fire. We're going to Rico, and we're going to teach these offensive ball carriers up top to mimic a rollback for right now. Again, half field slides, we're going to work on everything above that line, right? So we're going to pretend that it's only these 3v3, all right? So we're not going to throw the ball forward in this situation. I'll show you a wrinkle on that in a second. You're going to fire Rico. As this player recovers, he's going to either throw the ball if you're doing that, or he's going to mimic throwing the ball back to the coach. And in that time, we are now going to end up with D3 here, or excuse me, D2 there. D1, our original on-ball defender, is going to be here on the crease. And D3 is going to be in a situation where he is timing either the ball movement from the coach to the other line or the mimic, and he's going to fly out and take the middle again. But now what you're going to find is as this guy begins his dodge down the side, this D1 who just recovered has to pivot. So D3 is up here now. This D1 has to pivot around the cone because we don't want to slide from the back side of the cone. We want to slide from here. So he's going to pivot and show. And this defenseman who just flew out and slid to pick up the ball carrier as the ball moved, he's got to crash back in because, again, we're expecting him to be our top-down adjacent opposite the dodge. So you guys will see already, he went from, our on-ball defenseman went from being on ball to recover to being hot in the span of about 5 seconds. This defenseman who slid went from being hot to sliding to on ball, and now he's going to be a 2 again. And then this defenseman 3, who was our original 2 slide, just went from being a 2 slide working his way out. Okay, so we're asking these guys to do a lot in the span of 5 seconds. We're asking them to do more than they probably normally would do in a game, so that way we can show them later on why it's important to send other guys as 2s maybe sometimes, or put pressure on the ball to buy more time for all this action happening. That's another good point. So again, D2 is our top down adjacent, D1 is our 1, D3 is our deny on the ball, he's taking him down the alley. So again, D1 slides, so he's about here. We're teaching these offensive players to roll back. D2 is in on the crease. And then D3 is recovering back in as that ball either moves to coach and goes the opposite line, or it mimics going to the coach. And we just continue to cycle these guys through. So they're getting a lot of reps between being hot to on ball to recovering to being hot to the other side. And so again, 30 to 45 second reps, and you should be good to go after that. Rotate full units at the same time. You can do 1s and 2s. You can do players that don't normally play with each other. You can mix it up, whatever you want to do. But it's a really good way to get those guys a lot of reps in 30 to 45 seconds. So in our next video, we'll talk about the skinny half field slide and how we can apply the same drill, same concept, but with a different setup. And we'll kind of keep rolling from there. So give this video a like, give us a comment if you have any questions. Hopefully this helped you guys out with some install. And we'll see you in the next video.